Skirt, skirt. Told you we always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly. We get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli. It's leave on I levy, no sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm cool. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit up my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's stream. We have, for the first time in a couple of weeks, because it is the first time in a couple of weeks that this sport has been played, we have football. And not just any football, but we have the Super Bowl. Ben, how are you feeling about the Super Bowl?
So this is going to be my first ever Super Bowl that I've watched. No. I'm pumped. Super Bowl's effing awesome. So many different props, a lot of value. It's a spectacle, and we're here to break it down for you and try to find some value.
Yeah, that we are. So this is going to be the first of 3 Super Bowl streams that we are doing. So today, the agenda is game discussion, just talking about the spread and the total for the game, plus player props. Tomorrow, at the same time, we're going to be live talking about just all of the different miscellaneous props that pop up in the Super Bowl, stuff like what color will the Gatorade be? We're the sharpest coin toss handicappers in the game. So we're going to cover that.
Where's the sharp money going? There's a good pun there, Nick. I don't know exactly what it is with the sharp money and coin flip, but there's something there.
Yeah, no, it definitely is there. We'll figure that one out. We're going to work on it. We'll have it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep.
And then on Sunday, on the big day itself, we will be live starting at 5:30 Eastern, about an hour before kickoff. Just going to do a little bit of a recap of all of the betting stuff. And we're going to do a sweat stream / watch party on Sunday. So for the most part, that's just going to be Ben and I up on screen. And the reason for that is because we are running a lot of contests. So there's going to be a pre-game prop picking contest. I think that we're going to make an official announcement for that tomorrow, I would assume. I mean, tomorrow kind of makes sense to make that announcement. Pre-game prop picking contest, in-game prop picking contests. I see T Cherry in the chat, who was the winner of multiple of those contests last year. He can tell you that they're fun. And potentially also some merch giveaways. We will have to see, though. Still fleshing all the plans out, but either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to tune in for that. So we have a football game that we should probably start talking about. We have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are technically the away team, even though it is in their stadium. The Rams are favored by 4 in this game. Over-under set at 48.5. So, Ben, I'll start out with the number one question in everybody's mind. Who is going to win the Super Bowl?
The Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. Will they cover? Maybe. So this is one of those games where you have one team coming in, I would say, hotter than the other. You can't really say the Bengals are coming in hot and the Rams aren't. That's not fair. I mean, the Rams have played very well the last several games once they started to get healthy. But the Bengals, 2 very impressive wins. And, of course, the last game against the Chiefs, very impressive.
Oh, yeah.
So I think looking at the +4 and saying, well, hey, they just beat the Chiefs on the road and they're getting, 4 points. What the heck, right? But I feel like from the matchup perspective, and this is probably something that we've all heard all week, maybe even the last 2 weeks, is the matchup between the Bengals offensive line and the Rams defensive front. And maybe this is baked into the line. I mean, it probably is to some extent. It has to be, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's a reason why the Rams are -4 and it opened at -3.5. But, man, I really think that this is a matchup that if the Rams really take advantage of, not only does it disrupt the offense, but it can lead to turnovers, big plays, maybe even a potential defensive touchdown. And with all that, I have to go with the Rams. And the last thing I'll say, Nick, is I really do believe that McVay having a second appearance in the Super Bowl is invaluable. And you could say, well, how did the first matchup go? Well, it wasn't good. I mean, it's got to be one of the worst offensive performances in the Super Bowl, at least top 5. But I feel confident that he learned a lot from that, and not only just during the game, but how to prepare, like what to look for, right? It's so different, like leading up to the game. It's like nothing else. So he has that under his belt, and I just think with the preparation, having that experience, I have to lean Rams as well with that, and I think Rams win by a touchdown, Nick.
Yeah. So let's not forget that the Bengals head coach, Zach Taylor, has also coached in the Super Bowl. Not as a head coach, but he was on Sean McVay's staff in that Super Bowl appearance. So it's not like this is his first time coaching on the big stage. It's his first time as the number 1 guy, as the head honcho. But he's been there. He's been under that spotlight before. And at the same time, though, maybe as one of the offensive coaches on that Rams staff, he deserves some responsibility for the poor performance.
Yeah, it was his fault.
It's a little bit of the chicken and the egg type of deal, right? Like who is at fault if either of them.
That's that easy narrative where if you like the Rams, you just blame it on him, and then if you like the Bengals, you'll be like, well, look what McVay did last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So.
And no, I mean, McVay ultimately has to deserve more responsibility as the head coach.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for better or for worse, Taylor was on the staff in that game for whatever that means. And I honestly don't really think it means a whole lot. But it is just something that is, I think, worth pointing out.
Good point. Yeah.
So
and Burrow, national championship. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, right? I mean, these are all professional players. They've played in front of hundreds of thousands of players, or hundreds of thousands of fans on TV, 100,000 fans in the stadium, week in and week out. I mean, I don't think that anybody's going to have nerve issues that are so bad that it's going to start affecting performance. That's not something that I really want to be in the business of handicapping.
I'll say one last thing, though, before you hop in. If I were to guess, and I agree with what you just said, but if I were to guess who's going to be more nervous and who would potentially be the quarterback to slip up and have a big mistake because of nerves, I would probably say Stafford.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. I mean, Burrow's definitely the younger guy, the less experienced guy in terms of just total games played and age, but he is the guy who played in a national championship game.
Yeah, and he has his whole career, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is probably it for Stafford.
I don't think that's true.
Well, for like getting back to the Super Bowl, I mean, he has to know that this is such a...
He's a quarterback on a team that's in the Super Bowl right now. Why is the... And he's not, like, old.
Yeah,
Why
but
is this automatically the
how many
last time?
seasons has he had where he hasn't even sniffed a Super Bowl.
I mean, how many of those seasons were with the Lions? All of them.
So I think he should be very grateful, and he should know he might not get back here.
Yeah.
They're going to trade him back to the Lions if they lose.
Yeah, they're going to bring back
That's what I'm getting at.
So the model in this game, and also these sims do account for the injury news that broke today, which is Tyler Higby is going to miss the Super Bowl with his knee injury. So the model has the Rams winning this game, but the Bengals covering. We've got 25.99 to 24.86 for the Rams. So it's a Rams win, it's a Bengals cover, and it's an over by a couple points. So one thing that I think is important to point out, just talking about first with the spread in this game, is at least over the last 10 years, I have some pretty detailed stats that I took from the last 10 Super Bowls just to see kind of how those games go. Every team that has won has covered. So there's been, if the underdog wins, they obviously cover. You have to cover if you win as an underdog. And every favorite that has won the Super Bowl over the last 10 years has covered the spread. So I think, for me, the only two bets that make sense to place are a Rams -4 if you think the Rams are going to win, or a Bengals money line if you think the Bengals are going to win. I think it's pretty unlikely that this is a game that the Bengals lose but still cover.
Mm-hmm. So, Nick, I will say, though, if you do go back and look historically at a lot of the spreads, they were, -4, -3, -1, -2, -4, -3, -4, -1, -2. So, I mean, obviously this spread is -4, but it is pretty hard to hit in that window, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make that point, that that's a lot of why it's been that trend versus, spreads are like -10, -15,
Yeah,
But
oh yeah.
Of course, it's the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's the Super Bowl. It's really good teams. I mean, the biggest spread that we've seen in the last 10 years is 5. That was the Broncos and the Panthers. The Broncos were 5-point underdogs in that game, and they ended up winning outright.
Mm-hmm. And then the last 7-point spread we actually had the favorite winning, but not covering.
Yeah, and I think, is that the Steelers?
Yeah, and then, man, the Giants, when they were 12-point underdogs right before that, won outright. That's the biggest spread we've seen since like the 90s.
Yeah.
There were some crazy spreads like back in the 90s. Like -11, -14, 18.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think if I were to be placing a bet right now, I think that the value spot is actually on Bengals money line. I know that the model has the Rams winning this game by a point, but I think getting this at least on FanDuel at plus 166 right now, I kind of do think that is the value. Mm-hmm. That's the value spot for me, at least. So the other thing that I think is interesting is with this total. So this was a funky stat, and again, I have data going back 10 years. So over the last 10 Super Bowls, there's been a total in the 40s 5 times and a total in the 50s 5 times. All 5 times the total has been in the 40s, it's gone over. All 5 times it's been in the 50s, it went under.
Wow.
What does that mean? Probably absolutely nothing. but I still thought it was interesting.
I could see the... Wait, say the last part one more time, just so I heard you correctly.
Oh, actually, hold on. So that's slightly a lie. There was one total in the 40s went over. Or no, one total in the 50s went over. That was the overtime game, the 28-3 comeback. That went over.
Wow.
But it only went over in overtime.
Gotcha. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, we want action, right? We want scores, I should say. We want offense.
Yeah. So I think that for me, between all spreads, totals, money lines, I actually do think that the over 48.5 is my favorite play. So Ben, what are your thoughts on the total? But real quick, before I guess I'm going to ask you a question and then I'm going to make you wait to answer it. So obviously both of these offenses are good, right? I mean, the Rams offense with Stafford at quarterback, with Kupp at receiver, Higby's out. I don't know that that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
In this game. OBJ on the other side. Cam Akers in the backfield. Sony Michel as another option. The Rams offense is good. Bengals offense, obviously, with Burrow and all of the talent that they have at receiver, is another fantastic offense. I actually think that the matchup with the Rams defensive line against the Bengals offensive line could, in a way, help out the over.
I got to hear this.
So, I mean, obviously, it's better for the under, that matchup, right? I mean, the offense underperforming is good for an under. But you can run into a situation like what is the thing that kills unders more than anything else? Defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
And turnovers, yeah, setting up good field position. So if you like that matchup and you think it's going to be such an overwhelming thing, I mean, then the Rams is probably the bet to make. But in a way, it could actually just set up the Rams with either with defensive touchdowns or with good field position that allows for quick scores. And then it also forces the Bengals to run a kind of an offense that schemes against that, which is just going to be getting the ball out into space quickly. And prop wise, there's definitely some things that's good for, which we'll touch on in a little bit.
Yeah, and Luke Man said I could see a defensive battle. You know, last Super Bowl, Nick, the books absolutely cleaned up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was Tom Brady, Mahomes, and the Chiefs only put up 9 points. I actually believe I was on the under in that game because I was so big about like Mike Remmers starting, and I'm like, guys, do you remember that? I was like,
I do.
I probably said Mike Remmers' name like 100 times on the stream at some point, but yeah, I was really big on the under, but I wish I would have played more player prop unders because the people who did, wow, they cleaned up. But I don't know if it's gonna be like, to that comment, it's probably not gonna be anything like that, but you make a really good point because, you know, there's a prop we'll touch on tomorrow with fumbles. Like there could be a few strip sacks and Aaron Donald in your face, right? Like it's not good. So
yeah,
Vikings fans, everyone knows about Remmers. That's funny.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that's a great point though, because you could sit here or you could sit on Monday and say, "Oh my gosh, I had such a good handicap on that, but those stupid turnovers."
Mm-hmm.
And we're just here to tell you that's part of it.
Yeah. So what is your thought on the total if you had to take a pick?
I'm gonna lean under. So close though. I think this is a super tight number.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it opened up at 50.
And yeah, Jay Critch, is there a coin toss on FanDuel? I'm assuming FanDuel has the coin toss. We're going to have a really in-depth discussion on heads or tails tomorrow.
I got it right last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly one of the easier things to handicap.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah, I mean, you just I don't know.
Click heads or tails on your phone.
Yep. I mean, if they're offering it at plus 100, which a lot of books do, then I mean, it's not a minus EV bet.
No, it's not plus either, but
it's a 0 EV bet.
Yeah, is there a word for that?
It's like playing roulette without green.
Yeah. You know, they've been adding like a third green.
Really? That's stupid.
Cockroaches.
Yeah.
They're like it's pretty. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doesn't European roulette only have one green? Vegas
I
is
can tell you
greedy.
what, the online poker or online casino roulette doesn't have just one.
All right. So as far as our leans for the game are concerned, I think that we're kind of on opposing sides on both of these, on the spread and on the total. So that's no fun. Or maybe that is fun.
Yeah, it could be fun. Obviously, for me, there's not a lot of confidence there. I have way more confidence in some of these props.
Yeah, the prop market is definitely the spot to exploit in the Super Bowl. Most of my action is going to be on the props, and I'm going to incorporate spread and total stuff, I think, in same game parlays. I'm definitely planning on making several of those for the Super Bowl. All right, so let's move along into the passing prop market, if you're ready for that, Ben.
Yep.
All right. So
I think we're going to be on the same page with one of these at least.
yeah, we'll have to see. I have some interesting stats. So passing yards, we have Joe Burrow over under 278.5. Matthew Stafford over under 283.5. And chat, I'm curious what you guys are on for these two guys. So I'm throwing up a poll. Vote if you like both overs, both unders, or whatever combination you like. But Ben, is there a guy that you'd like to start with?
Burrow.
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 Where are you at on
Nick,
Burrow?
I like his under. Model likes it too.
Yeah.
The funny thing with Burrow and what I'm expecting him to do in this game is I think he hits under his passing yard number, but his completions and attempts are going to go over.
Yeah. So I really think that, I mean, for Burrow and for Stafford also, just where these yards end up and also the completions and attempts end up, especially the attempts, is very game flow dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So in past Super Bowls, pretty much every single losing quarterback, the only exceptions being Tom Brady in the 28-3 comeback where he won, and Tom Brady against Seattle, where they came back and scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to win that game also. Every losing quarterback in the last 10 years has flown over their season average in pass attempts in the Super Bowl. So I think if you like the Rams, a Burrow attempts over is an excellent look. And at the same time, the winning quarterback, pretty much always, again, the overtime game with Tom Brady in the 28-3, plus that Brady game against Wilson, and Joe Flacco. The winning quarterback pretty much always goes under their seasonal average in passing yards. And the losing quarterback is about 50-50 going over and under. So a lot of unders on a lot of things. But since you like the Rams to win and the Rams to cover, I do think that that kind of where you're at on Burrow makes sense, especially in terms of completions and attempts.
Mm-hmm. So as far as completions or attempts go, is there one that you like more than the other?
It would have to be the attempts for me.
Yeah. 36.5 seems like a lot, but it could fly. Nick, it could still hit even if they win too.
Mm-hmm.
Not as likely, definitely, but I could see a scenario where, they are having success passing it and they're quicker, shorter passing plays, right, with the pass rush. So that's just less time off the clock, less just quicker attempts quicker passes, I could see that happening too.
Yeah. So do you also like this Burrow attempts over?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid look. And actually, so what I think that I'm gonna do is take a Burrow attempts over and Rams to cover. Take those two things together, and then do the same thing with Stafford attempts over and Bengals to cover, or Bengals to win, and then take those two things together. And then if one of those two hits, you're good. That's kind of my plan with these. So going back to the yards and going back to Burrow, Matt said Joe Burrow under, hell no. And just taking a Joe Burrow under is a really scary proposition. And actually, I think if you like the Rams in this game, you can't take this Joe Burrow yardage under, because they're gonna have issues running the ball with Mixon against that Rams front seven behind that offensive line.
Yeah.
So I think that those are two extremely negatively correlated plays.
Yeah, and to be fair here, I'm not going to bet that, but I'm almost positive I'm either going to bet either one of the two between completions or attempts, and it feels like attempts is the way to go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that the attempts attempts is the way to go. But especially with Burrow. But what about Stafford? So my thought on Stafford is that Stafford could, and maybe even should, go under, regardless of whether the Rams win or lose. I feel like this one is a little bit less game flow dependent. I think that the Rams have shown in previous weeks that they're going to run the ball with Cam Akers and to a lesser extent with Sony Michel, just whether they're up or whether they're down. And I think that does a lot to neutralize the volume for Stafford. And I think that if the Rams are up, that'll be exacerbated even more. This 283.5 is a pretty high number for Stafford.
It is. Man, someone made a comment about it, Nick. The Rams could just rely. Well, I shouldn't say rely, but if they have success running the ball, they could keep the clock ticking, control the time of possession, and then take their shots when need be. It's hard to say if that's going to be the case, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
Yeah. So how has Stafford done on these numbers in the playoffs? I mean, he's gone over 300 in each of the last two games. Those were both really close wins. Those were two games in which the Rams would not have covered -4, despite them winning. And in games where the Rams have won by more than 4 points, how has Stafford done? So he went over this number in Week 1 against Chicago, over it in Week 3 against Tampa, under against Arizona, over against Seattle, under against New York. I guess me reading all these out isn't all that helpful. D-Chris says he's hit this 12 out of 17 games this year. So I mean, I guess that's kind of the important thing. What is interesting is actually in all of the Rams. Well, I guess no, not even in the losses. He's gone over it in two losses. So yeah, that is a good stat. So what are your thoughts, Ben? You like Stafford over? You like Stafford under?
I like his under, but I'm not betting this one. It just seems so high. But also, man, what if Kupp just has another insane game, right? We'll talk about him in a second.
I mean, Kupp isn't going to have 283 receiving yards.
I hope not.
I mean, doubtful.
That'd be kind of cool, though.
It would be extremely cool.
The record.
So, what I think is interesting is in Super Bowls, quarterbacks do kind of underperform yardage wise on aggregate. I think for whatever reason, teams like to run the ball, or historically at least have liked to run the ball a lot in the Super Bowl. I mean, it is a little bit safer. You're keeping the ball, you're keeping your offense off the field, keeping your defense off the field. A little bit less likely to be turning the ball over, running the ball. So let's see. So again, in the last 10 Super Bowls, there's 18 quarterbacks in those out of 20 total started the full season for their team. The two that didn't, Colin Kaepernick and Nick Foles. Only 6 of the 18 quarterbacks went over their seasonal average in passing yards in the Super Bowl. And Stafford's average on the season is 287.4.
Yeah, he could still go under and hit this, but it'd be very unlikely if that happened. Hits at like 180 or 285, but it can make sense, that trend, Nick. I think there's something to that.
Yeah, and furthermore, each of the last 3 Super Bowls. I mean, so this is Brady and Mahomes last year, Mahomes and Garoppolo the year before that, Brady and Goff the year before that. None of those 6 quarterbacks hit their season average in passing yards in the Super Bowl.
Luke Mann 404 makes a really good point. We'll touch on this more tomorrow with some of the other miscellaneous props, but because there's some bets that kind of play to that. But I think you're totally right, because the last thing you want to do is have a bad turnover on the first drive. Just the momentum swing with all the emotions, like that could kill the game. I mean, we've seen that a few times in Super Bowls. I don't like to talk about one of them, but I'm going to, because I care so much about this community that it brings trauma to me that I'm going to talk about it. But it's that, I don't even, was it 48, Nick? I literally...
Yeah, it was against the Seahawks.
Yeah, it was bad.
I think it was. But
anyways,
because they won 50.
Snap over the head, safety. Like you could literally just feel like at that point I'm like, I think we lost. Like it was that bad. Mm-hmm. So to that point, you're going to see some pretty conservative play calls. I don't think you see a lot of like super deep shots in the first 10 plays for each team, but hey, maybe if everyone's thinking that, they pull a quick one on you. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's actually another thing that we can maybe talk about. Is again, I don't have the stats for this written down, but I did a kind of cursory look, and you just don't really see big passing plays in the Super Bowl. And again, yeah. I think it just has to do with conservative play calling. The stakes are as high as they're ever going to get.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense.
And I think that's another reason why completions or attempts are a better value than yards if you're looking for an over.
Mm-hmm. Nick, I'll put it this way. I think you still see big plays, but the number of them, the volume is way lower. I'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. Less shots, more conservative, like, hey, it's 3rd and 5. Get a first down. It's 2nd and 7. Like, let's try to move the sticks versus taking a shot. I really do believe that.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're playing as much not to lose as you are to win. So chat poll results are in.
What are they saying?
So
what you got for us, chat?
So for Stafford, hold on, let me count up how many total votes there were. 12 total votes on the poll. Stafford under has 8 votes. Stafford over has 4. So 2-1 preferring Stafford under. Burrow, 7 overs, 5 unders.
Okay.
And again, I think that kind of aligns just with game flow of the Rams winning and the Bengals losing. Or at least the Rams leading throughout the game and the Bengals trailing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ben, I guess last thing before we move along. If you had to, I mean, and we can maybe say our favorite bets. either at the end of the stream, or if we want, we can hold off on that and kind of give them out day of on the Super Bowl stream ahead of time. But if you had to make one of these bets, any passing prop, what would it be?
It'd probably be the over attempts at 36.5
for Burrow.
Burrow, yeah, for Burrow.
I think I agree. I think that if I had to place one, that's the one it's going to be.
Yeah. And I have another one that I probably like. Well, no, we'll get into it. But yeah, as far as these go, yeah, that's my fave.
What, do you have like a longest pass, longest completion
No.
type of deal that you're into?
Nick was just waiting for that.
Oh, I'm surprised that you don't.
Hey, I look at the board, and if I find value, I find value. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd probably lean under for that more than anything, but for some of the players or quarterbacks, I actually know that Stafford is at 40.5 for his longest completion. I'm not touching those, but
they're both. I'm seeing 39.5 for both.
Okay, 39.5.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably lean under for both. Maybe a little bit more likely to take an over for Burrow, but
we might have to throw one of those in the prop picking contest.
Oh, for sure. There's gonna be a bunch of random shit in there.
Yeah, and let's talk about that real quick since we're on the point. We have some people who opt in, so you can take it.
Okay, yeah. So I guess in the run up to the Super Bowl, so probably Sunday morning, in the Capwise Discord, be sure to join that if you have not done so already. There's a link in the description in the chat. We're going to be running a pre-game prop picking contest. So it's going to be anywhere from 15 to 20 props, ranging from the coin toss to the color of the Gatorade to regular player props to like who's going to cover stuff, kind of all across the board. And whoever gets the most right is going to win some money. So be sure to be ready for that. And then in game for the Super Bowl, we are going to be sweating out the Super Bowl live on stream. And for each of the 4 quarters, we are going to have a kind of live type of prop picking contest. So I think some stuff that we did last year was like who will be the first touchdown scorer. Was the one that we did for the first quarter, and then there's like how many passing yards will a quarterback get in the third quarter, that type of thing. So don't know exactly what those are going to be yet, and wouldn't tell you anyways.
Yeah.
But again, those are all going to have cash prizes associated with them. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So what time on Sunday we're going? So Super Bowl starts at 6:30 Eastern. We're going to be live an hour ahead of time, starting at 5:30, just to do a quick recap of all of the bets that we're on, kind of see where chat is at, see how everybody's feeling about everything. And then we're going to be live all the way through when the game ends. We did it last year. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it again this year. I don't know if T Cherry is still here. I know he had a lot of fun last year because he won $200.
Yeah. I hope. Sorry, T Cherry, but I hope you don't win again.
So Player Prop Locks said thoughts on Chris Evans getting any kind of usage. Maybe.
Yeah, I could see a little bit. We'll touch on this in a sec here.
Also, what do you mean, Hill Daddy says, "Oh, Nick, you don't care about chat"? I love chat most of the time. So let's go ahead and move along to some rushing props. So is there a team that you want to start with, Ben?
Yeah, let's start with the Rams because of the Henderson news. Now, we're probably not going to see a lot of Henderson props Right. Pretty doubtful on that, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's just absolutely no way of knowing what his usage is going to be. I mean, and that is something that scares me as well.
Yeah, it does. Because what's worse, or is anything worse than this? When you have a rushing prop and then all of a sudden the player's not in, and you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I mean, it happened to me in conference championship week with Akers. I had his attempts over. And he just got hurt.
Yep, McKinnon and the Chiefs, that happened to, right? Like, McKinnon's like, hey, remember me?
Yeah, and I also I have some stats on this, kind of how number 1 and number 2 backs do in the Super Bowl on each team, the winning team and the losing team. But we'll get into all that in a little bit of detail in a second. Oh, hold on. Actually, yeah. Well, no, never mind. We can talk about that on Sunday. We didn't talk about interceptions.
We can talk about that on Sunday.
Yeah.
Anything that we miss, I think we can just
Sunday will be
naturally
catch all
things we'll miss
update type of day.
So Nick, with Cam Akers, right? My initial feel is over, just because that guy's made me so much money in the past.
Yeah,
probably part of it. But then I think about Michelle and Henderson. Like, let's just say Henderson gets 2 to 3 carries.
Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. I think somebody knocked on my door.
Okay. You can get it. I'll keep talking. So let's say that Henderson gets 2 to 3 carries, and let's say that Michelle gets 6 to 8. If there's 10 touches that aren't Cam Akers, how do you guys feel about this, right? If that scares you, you shouldn't play this over. So for me, I have to lean under. But the other part of this bet is if the Rams are up big and they just run the ball, maybe he hits this number, but I don't know. So, Nick, I was just saying with the Cam Akers number, like, let's assume that maybe 8 to 10 touches are to Michelle and Henderson. How do we feel about this number? But then we also have the idea of them or playing up with a lead and then just running the ball. So I'm personally not betting this one, but I actually lean under here.
For Michelle's or for Akers rushing yards?
For Akers, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's a with Henderson being in, it's a fade spot for me. I think that there's just enough concern about where touches are going to go that I don't want to bet it. I don't want to bet an over, and I really don't want to bet an under either, because I do think that the Rams being able to run the ball, just concept wise, is one of the things that I feel the most confident in this game. So I really don't want to take an Akers under, but I don't think I can bring myself to take an Akers over at the same time, just because of the risk. And also, like B-Ball said, Akers has been a fumble machine, and I think that if he fumbles once in the Super Bowl, he's done.
Yeah, he would be done.
Yeah. Also, I got a little happy birthday gift from my apartment. That's what
nice. Is it drugs?
I hope so.
Just start taking it on stream, and
Nick
will be like, "We're taking overs on longest reception." I'll be like, "Yeah, it was drugs."
Yeah.
Wait, what is Michelle at for his rushing number?
So there is no rushing number up, at least on FanDuel. If anybody knows another book that does have Michelle or a Henderson rushing prop, let me know.
I got it. 19 and a half?
Eh.
It kind of goes back to what you said, right? Like,
I think Akers is the guy unless he does something to warrant him not being the guy.
I agree.
Which he's quite liable to do.
Man, that's okay.
So what about Matt Stafford at 5.5?
I'm not touching that one. I don't even want to personally give out anything. I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I think I like the Stafford under. So I think in the run up to the in the playoffs before the Super Bowl, all quarterbacks are quite happy to lay it all on the line. I think in the Super Bowl itself, though, quarterbacks are actually quite shy about rushing the ball, especially ones who it's not part of the regular game.
Yeah.
So here's the complete list in the last 10 years of quarterbacks who have ran for more than 0 yards in the Super Bowl. So you had Patrick Mahomes last year, who's a guy who was always going to run, ran for 33. Patrick Mahomes the year before had 29. Jimmy Garoppolo in that game also had 2 carries for 2 yards. Tom Brady against the Eagles and against the Falcons had 1 carry in each of those games for 6 and 15 yards. Cam Newton had 45. Russell Wilson had 39 and 26 in his 2 Super Bowl appearances, and Colin Kaepernick had 62 against the Ravens. So with the exception of Brady, and I guess the 2 yards from Garoppolo, it's all running quarterbacks. So in the pocket quarterbacks, last year, Tom Brady, -2. Brady and Goff in the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, -2 and 0. Nick Foles had 0. Matt Ryan had 0. Peyton Manning had 0. Tom Brady, -3. Peyton Manning, 0. Joe Flacco, 0. Eli Manning, -1. Tom Brady, 0. These statue quarterbacks don't run.
Nope.
And then also, if you think the Rams are going to win, there's a lot of negative numbers up on the board here. So the kneel down is a big threat, especially with a number this low. So I actually think I would lean and feel pretty comfortable putting a little money on the Stafford under 5.5 rushing yards.
And Nick, on top of that point, if they do have success running the ball, there's not going to be a lot of pass plays, maybe as much as a lot of people are expecting, which would be less opportunities for a potential scramble too. So it's another point to add on top of that. I think that's a good angle.
Yeah, I think so as well. Stafford is a guy who in the playoffs has had 6, 4, and 5 rushing attempts. But again, I just think that in the Super Bowl itself, you're not gonna do that if you're a guy like Stafford. There's just the opportunity cost of having to go to who's the backup guy from like Wake Forest
For
the Rams.
Oh yeah,
I completely forget what his name is. Walford.
Well, yeah,
I was thinking he went to Wofford? No, his name is Wolford. That is just not what you want to do.
Yeah. I'm surprised that more backup quarterbacks don't get in the Super Bowl just to take a knee, just to be like, he played.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess a lot of them, like, we've had some pretty good Super Bowls over the last few years, like close ones minus, I guess there's been a few, but I would say overall good games, right?
Yeah, last 3 have all been double digit games.
Yeah, I guess maybe I just thought the last one was good because I hate the Chiefs and made a lot of money. I was like, that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the Bengals. A lot of guys up for the Bengals. We have Joe Mixon, over under 60.5. Joe Burrow, 10.5. Samaje Perine, for whatever reason, has a number up on FanDuel at 3.5. And Jamar Chase, also 3.5.
Wow, that Perine number gets me excited. I wish there was if anyone can find me a bet if Perine has a rush, I would love to take that.
Yeah, I think that spot looks great.
Can I real quick explain why, just since we're on topic?
Yeah.
So Perine hasn't had a carry in the last 2 games. But I really do believe, based on just what I know about how teams develop game plans and how they scheme, they would be silly to have Perine get close to 20-25% of the snaps, which he had last game offensively, and not have a carry, because then the teams start to key in on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, hey, P. Ryan's in the game. And then that's where you kind of see like the reverse tendency. Like you try to take advantage of it, where they're like, hey, they think we're passing. So anyways, that'd be interesting if there's a over one rush or over 0.5 rushes.
I mean, I think that just taking the over 3.5 yards.
Yeah.
Is
you could hit that in one. Get a 4-yard gain. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So also in Super Bowls, I mean, so again, this is something that does depend team to team. But there's only been 2 number 2 running backs who have failed to hit this number. And that was Darwin Thompson on the Chiefs in their win over the Niners. And that was Monty Ball on the Broncos in that 43-8 loss to Seattle.
Shout out Monte Ball. I partied with him one time.
So, I mean, oh, actually, hold on. That's a lie. Royce Hillman. Is that his first name? I just typed out
Ronnie.
Ronnie Hillman.
Good old Ronnie.
Ronnie Hillman had 5 carries for 0 yards against the Panthers, also for the Broncos.
Wow. I think he did have a catch that game though?
And yeah, probably. And yeah, this is over the last 10 Super Bowls.
Yeah. He did something in that game. It obviously wasn't carry wise, but okay.
Good old Ronnie.
That's an
Hillman.
interesting stat. Because last game, I believe only Burrow and Mixon had carries, right? Or did Chase have one?
Let's see. Against the Chiefs last week, Jamar Chase had 3 carries for 9 yards.
Okay, but running back wise, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
Big Jim says his number is 13.5 plus 105 on his book. That's
bad.
Odd. I mean, you're on an offshore because you're in Texas, right?
Yeah, it's 3.5 in most places, so you should tell him to give you some good numbers, or just play the under.
Yeah.
I guess.
And yeah, P. Ryan does have the NCAA record for most rush yards in a game. He was at Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, man, he was a wagon, literally a wagon. Oklahoma Sooner.
Yeah. I remember that game. He had what, like, it was against Kansas, right? He had 350-ish, I want to say.
That's crazy. I do remember that.
We're looking at rushing right now, Augman. So what about Joe Mixon? So this number is sitting at 60.5. We've been a little bit on the Joe Mixon under train for rushing yards in recent weeks, and I kind of like it again here in this game.
Why?
I mean, is he going to get volume? Yeah. Has he been remotely efficient this year? Not really. I mean, so he's gone over this number. He did it against Kansas City last week. He did it on 18 carries against Baltimore in week 16. And before that, he hasn't done it since week 12.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are anticipating P. Ryan getting a little bit more work for whatever reason, I mean, even if it's just a couple of carries, I mean, those carries add up. Plus, the Rams' run D is just really good. I mean, they average 3.6 yards per carry allowed to running backs, only allow 73 per game on the ground to backs. Plus, if you think that the Bengals are going to be behind, Mixon's probably going to get work in the passing game more so than the running game.
To be honest, I lean under, but I don't like this one a lot.
Yeah, 60.5. It does feel kind of tight at 60.5. If this was sitting at like 65, like we've been seeing throughout the playoffs, I'd be a lot more confident. I do think in that 50 to 60, yeah, is where he's going to end up. And Blicky, no. I mean, at least I don't. I'm assuming Ben doesn't either. We're both in Colorado, and you can't bet on college props in Colorado.
I know it's really weird, but that's just the rule out there. Yeah, DFS too, Nick. They used to have DSF for college.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would do college football DFS back when I was in Virginia and in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can do that here. So I guess the last guy is Mr. Shiesty, Mr. Joe Burrow. 10.5.
So I was on a live stream with someone from Sports Wagering U, and he made a good point about Burrow that I could kind of see happening. So when you have such an aggressive pass rush, especially on the edge, right? Von Miller, it can sometimes make you step up in the pocket. And with a guy like Aaron Donald, when he's pressuring you, you can't really just step up to throw. Sometimes you just you could still throw. You have to step out and kind of scramble. So I actually think there could be some opportunities for Burrow to have a run, a few scramble runs to surpass 10.5, Nick.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. So when exactly did they trade for Von Miller?
Man, it was like week 14, and then he didn't play one game. Week 13, maybe you could look at 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up. He week 10 was his first game with the Rams. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so in that time, here's what the Rams have done against quarterbacks on the ground. So Jimmy Garoppolo in week 10, 2 carries for 1 yard. Aaron Rodgers, 2 carries for no yards. Trevor Lawrence, 4 for 10. Kyler Murray, 7 for 61. So Murray had a big game on the ground. And I guess Lawrence actually didn't go over this number. Russell Wilson, no carries for no yards. Kirk Cousins had 4 for 17. Tyler Huntley, 6 for 54. Garoppolo, 1 for 1. And now in the playoffs, 2 carries on 6 yards for Kyler Murray. 1 carry for 0 yards for Tom Brady. 1 carry for 4 yards for Jimmy Garoppolo. So in the playoffs, quarterbacks have a combined 4 attempts. And this is including Kyler Murray, a guy who will run. Tom Brady, a guy who will at least try QB sneaks. Mm-hmm. And I guess Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't really run all that much.
Yeah.
So any stock that you put into any of that?
I mean, he's going to be running for his life, whether he can run.
yeah, whether it's forwards past the line of scrimmage or not.
Someone said something about how fast can you run if Aaron Donald's chasing you from behind, and I'm like, as fast as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I think ultimately this is a fade for me. I would again be inclined to lean under just because of the stat that I said earlier. I mean, it's really only the true mobile quarterbacks like Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton who have hit this number, and Burrow can run, but he can't run like those guys can. And everybody else goes under in the Super Bowl. So I would lean under for Burrow, but probably not something I'm going to bet. I think if you're looking for a quarterback, the Stafford under is the better play.
Mm-hmm.
So you're ready to move along and talk about the receiving prop market?
I am.
All right. You want to start with the Rams or the Bengals?
Start with the
With the Rams?
yeah.
Your mic cut out for
Yep,
a
Rams.
second. Okay.
Start with the Rams.
So on the Rams side of things, and again, remember, for anybody who may have missed the news or forgotten, Tyler Higby is out in the Super Bowl. So Rams receiving numbers, we have Cooper Kupp over under 105.5, Van Jefferson over under 33.5, OBJ over under 63.5, Cam Akers over under 16.5, and new starting tight end Kendall Blanton, destroyer of first TD scorer dreams last week, over under 28.5.
Kendall Blanton. I have no clue what to expect there. So
Yeah.
I actually kind of lean over, but I'm not betting that.
I mean, I would probably also just blindly say over for Blanton. Higby's number has been in the high, like in the 35 to 45 range the last few games. Blanton's not as good, but he should still be seeing quite a bit of volume.
Cooper Kupp, Nick.
Cooper Kupp.
I want to hear your thoughts on this.
It's a lot of yards.
I know it is.
It is a lot of yards. At the same time, so I closed. Hold on, I didn't write all this down, and I closed out of all of my my old Super Bowls. But teams do pretty heavily rely on their number one options in the Super Bowl. You put the ball in the hands of your best player, and I think on this offense, the best skill position player is Cooper Kupp. I mean, I don't think that should be a hot take at all. So here is how kind of top receiving options have performed in past Super Bowls. So last year, you saw Travis Kelce on the Chiefs with 133. Top receiver on the Bucks was Gronk, 67. The year before, on the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill had 105. The Niners don't really have like a top option. They're like the one team who spread it out. They had a lot of guys in the 30-40 range. The year before, Julian Edelman, Super Bowl MVP, 141 through the air. And Brandon Cooks on the Rams, 120 through the air. The year before, you saw not one, not two, but three guys on the Patriots go over 100 yards in Gronk, Chris Hogan, and Danny Amendola. And of all people, Corey Clement on the Eagles had 100 yards. Nelson Aguilar also had 84. The year before that, top receiver on the Falcons, Julio Jones, 87. James White out of the backfield had 110.
James White.
I'm not going to stop going through all these, but you do see quite consistently, certainly at a much higher rate than you would in the regular season, guys hitting 100-plus yard games.
Yeah.
So model has Kupp at 90. I don't know if I want to bet the over, but I really don't want to bet an under for Kupp. That's kind of where I'm at. Do you agree, disagree? I'd rather take a receptions for Kupp.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the thing with Kupp is, like, we can come into every game saying that teams are going to scheme for him, but the way they line him up, you can't really stop him. Like, they do such a good job of putting him in positions, right, where he can get the ball. So if he didn't play it out of the slot as much, I would maybe lean toward. I kind of have to lean towards over, even though it's so high.
It is. It's crazy high.
Yeah.
But I can't take an under.
Yeah, I'm not betting that one, by the way. It's too high.
So what about some of these other guys? What about OBJ, 63.5.
So OBJ, this is one that I've been eyeing a little bit, and I also like his receptions. I mean, maybe this is somewhat square, Nick, but I think it's part of the narrative of like him being in the Super Bowl. But I think he's gonna get plenty of targets. Except that his reception number is at 5.5, which is
Yeah, it is plus 116 for the over.
Yeah. I would lean towards his over. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so the model has him going under by 10 yards. But again, the model can't account for the fact that in the Super Bowl, like I was saying, teams are going to disproportionately target their best guys in a way that they don't throughout the regular season. The Bengals don't like have guys who are going to shut down Kupp, shut down OBJ one-on-one. I do think that it is kind of square taking the OBJ over, but that is probably where I would lean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the guy that the model really likes is Van Jefferson.
Interesting.
So I mean, it's basically right. So Kupp is under by 15 yards, OBJ is under by 10 yards, and Van Jefferson is over his number by about 15 yards. So that's where a lot of those yards are. And again, I'm less inclined to trust the model here than I would be for most other games because it is the Super Bowl. But I still do think that this Jefferson over might be a better spot than the OBJ over or the Kupp over.
Mm-hmm. So I asked John Murray, this was like on Tuesday, I said, what are you seeing from some sharp bettors, like sharp action, just anything significant? And he said the one that a lot of sharps have been hitting was the under 2.5 for him.
Yeah, and I mean that's
I was
kind
a
of
little surprised.
like what Luke Man is saying in the chat. I mean, in these last couple of weeks, it really has been a two-man show, at least at receiver for the Rams. And Jefferson's kind of been the odd guy out. And it does feel a little risky to take the Super Bowl to be his spot to overperform.
He's due for a breakout game.
Yeah, he's due.
His family's going to be there, Nick. It's a revenge spot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Saying he's due is like the opposite of giving a trend. Right? It's like it's like you have a trend and then you come to the opposite conclusion based on that trend.
Yeah.
That's why they're both stupid. With some exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that these are risky. I think the one thing that feels safe would be like a Cooper Kupp receptions. Mm-hmm. There's no shot that they don't try and get the ball in his hands. So sitting at 8.5 minus 108 on FanDuel, I really don't mind it if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, that's not a bad angle.
So any thoughts on anybody else on the Rams? Or you ready to move along to the Bengals?
Let's talk about the Bengals.
All right. So let me switch teams here on the model. So on the Bengals, we have Tyler Boyd, over under 42.5. T. Higgins, over under 71.5. Jamar Chase, 78.5. Joe Mixon, 23.5. Samaje Perine, over under 10.5. And that is it. So I think the most interesting one is Jamar Chase.
Of course, we can start there.
So what are you thinking here?
It's such a weird number to me.
It's kind of where he's been in recent weeks.
Yeah, I guess I thought it would be in the 80s to get bet up a little bit, but I like his receptions more. Kind of like the same thinking I had with Burrow and his passing attempts versus yards.
Yeah, so what's kind of interesting with the attempts and the completions is that a lot of these quarterbacks, especially on losing teams in the Super Bowl, will have massive attempt games, but still have relatively low completions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Forcing it maybe a little bit.
Something along those lines, yeah. So some quarterbacks in recent years in the Super Bowl who have had big attempt games but low completion games, like going over their season average in attempts but under their season average in completions. Patrick Mahomes last year, 26 of 49, so his attempts was over his average by 10, and his completions was spot on where his average usually is. Jimmy Garoppolo the year before went over his season average in attempts but under his season average in completions. Jared Goff the year before that was over season average in attempts, under in completions. Cam Newton against the Broncos is also in the same boat. So there's a lot of guys, especially losing quarterbacks. All of those guys lost who have been in that boat. So receptions on these guys, if you feel confident in the Rams winning, that is not really an angle that I like.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it has more impact on some of the second tier guys and not on Jamar Chase. At the same time, though, maybe I mean, I'm assuming Jamar Chase is going to get a lot of Jalen Ramsey.
So, kind of going off of Chase, I wanted to talk about Tyler Boyd because in the last game, he had 6 targets, 4 catches, 19 yards. Game before, 3 targets, 2 catches, 17. And then the Raiders game, wild card game, 5 targets, 4 catches, 26. And then I guess you could even go one further in the regular season game, just another 36-yard game. And then the 4 before that, you saw 85, 55, 96, 85. But Burrow was going for like 400 plus yards in some of those spots.
Yeah.
But I could see Tyler Boyd having a bigger game. And I wanted to pull up his reception number because it is sitting at, let's see here, 4.5.
I'm sure I have actually, on FanDuel, I have 3.5 minus 154 for the over.
Yeah, pretty juiced to the over.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't want to touch Tyler Boyd after what he did to us last game.
I kind of forgot.
So what we did, or what the read that I had on that game was that the Chiefs, in their second time around facing a team, will neutralize the guy who beat up on them the first time, which was Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
and then there's going to be a new guy who comes along. And that was completely right. They kind of, relatively speaking, neutralized Chase. And we figured it would be Tyler Boyd, who had a big game. He had a great first drive. He had like 3 catches for 16 yards in the first drive. But then he did nothing the rest of the way. And it was T. Higgins.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe this is the one.
This is the one he's due?
Yeah, he's due. No, I think at 3.5, man, it's minus 150. I have to look more into it.
Yeah, I think I'd rather take 3.5 receptions,
juiced,
even juiced, as opposed to a 4.5 at minus 110. Again, I don't think that Burrow is going to have tons and tons and tons of completions in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Completion numbers in the Super Bowl just have historically been quite low.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that taking a secondary option to be outperforming where he's been recently is a spot that I want to be in, at least.
Yeah, I totally agree. What about Higgins, though?
So Higgins is interesting. I mean, his number is almost as high as Chase at 71.5. And that is something that is a little frightening. Kind of sketchy. I think that a lot of the reason for that, I think that there's two reasons for that. One of them is the Jalen Ramsey factor. Just assuming that he's going to be on Chase the whole time. And the other thing is that Higgins is the guy that had the big game last week, like we were just talking about. I think if you're taking one of these guys over, you kind of have to go with Chase, with these numbers being so close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I want to do that for either.
I don't want to either.
So what about some of these other guys? I don't think we have a number for CJ Uzoma. I think that there's some usage questions around his health. But what about the backs? We've got Joe Mixon again at 23.5. Samaje Perine at 10.5.
This is Perine again.
Yeah.
I kind of lean with the over for Mixon, Nick.
I kind of agree. I think that the Mixon receiving yards over 23.5 is a good look. So what's your grade on that, Ben?
Just the pressure that Burrow's going to have, and there's going to be some dump down, some quick, or even like if it is a 5-step drop, like Mixon's going to be kind of like a last resort. So that's kind of my thinking there.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I also think like if the Rams do kind of scheme around taking the wide receivers out of the game, Chase and to a lesser extent Higgins, then what does that do? That opens up space in the field for other guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I also think that throwing the ball to running backs just fits into the not taking risks, playing not to lose on offense as opposed to throwing the ball all the way down the field. There's a reason why several of those guys who I was reading out for top receivers on teams in the Super Bowl were running backs.
Perine though, man, I'm like, 10.5. It's so low.
Yeah, yeah. Could do like a rushing plus receiving for Perine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
Does that exist?
Yeah, probably. It's got to be out there somewhere.
Not on FanDuel. Okay, so let's talk about touchdowns.
Ooh.
We usually hate touchdown props, but it's the Super Bowl. We can't not have a couple touchdown scores. So Cooper Kupp, not so surprisingly, is the top guy. He's at minus 155. Model has him at 0.88 touchdowns on average. That's not an 88% chance of getting a touchdown. That's just 0.88 average touchdowns. So do you think that Kupp at minus 155 is a good value or not?
No, I don't.
So if you don't think that he's a good value, who is a guy that you do like?
OBJ.
OBJ at plus 135.
Yeah.
So why do you like the value on OBJ?
I think Beckham, if we look at the numbers, has been not as many targets as Kupp in the red zone, but he's had a fair share. So I just think that there's better value on the number.
Yeah, and also just to put this into perspective for everybody in chat, minus 155, you need to hit 60.8% of the time to break even. So if you think that Kupp has a better than 60.8% chance of scoring a touchdown, then that's a bet that you might want to make. Plus 135 for OBJ is a 42.6% shot. You need to be better than that for that to be a plus EV bet.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys that I like here are the running backs. Honestly, both of them. Joe Mixon at plus 100 and Cam Akers at plus 110. So kind of in the same way that quarterbacks kind of tend to underperform in passing yards in the Super Bowl, running backs tend to score a lot of touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So I have some stats on this.
Mm-hmm.
Teams that have not had one of their top two backs score a touchdown in the Super Bowl over the last 10 years. The Chiefs last year, because they didn't score any touchdowns. The Rams 2 years before that, because they didn't score any touchdowns. The Patriots in their win against the Seahawks. Although I actually think in that game that... Oh, no, I guess it was all receivers. So only receivers scored for them. And then the Broncos against the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
So only 4 teams. Oh, actually, also the Patriots again back in against the Giants, but only like 5 teams out of 20 have not had a running back score a touchdown in the Super Bowl over the last 10 years.
Wow. So then who is it? Who's the guy?
I mean, give me Mixon and give me Akers, both at plus money.
Mm-hmm.
Even if just one of them hits, you make money. And then also I maybe sprinkle our favorite word on Michelle or on P. Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle is at plus 330. P. Ryan is at plus 700. And also, those were just rushing touchdowns. I don't even have receiving stats for running backs. So very possible that some of those teams had a running back scored through the air. But I think for me, for touchdown scorers, it's the backs all day. I think that's what the value is.
Yeah, I like it.
So what about a deep shot?
Let's get deep then.
What about the Rams defense? Plus
Ooh,
500.
that's sneaky. I like Rams defense. That's not a bad one. What about Blanton?
Yeah, Kendall Blanton. I mean, he's probably actually got pretty reasonable odds now. Yeah, plus 260.
Mm-hmm.
What about Drew Sample? Plus 750.
No, not for me.
So you know who I really don't like to score touchdowns is the quarterbacks. I think that both of those are bad bets. There's been 2 rushing touchdowns by quarterbacks in the last 10 Super Bowls. There was one by Patrick Mahomes against the Niners, and there was one by Colin Kaepernick against the Ravens. And that's it. So I think that Stafford at plus 800 is a bad value, and Burrow at plus 700 is also a bad value. I think they just rather give the ball to the backs. Don't put the quarterback in a situation for them to get hurt, and just don't fuck around, right? Give it to the guy whose actual job it is to
right
to move the ball past the line of scrimmage in that way.
Burrow at plus 700 is interesting too.
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just they're gonna pound Mixon at the goal, right?
Yeah, so. It's going to be Mixon at the goal line, or it'll be a pass.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Burrow scores, if you like the Burrow touchdown, I think it's going to come from like 10 yards out
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Philly special.
Larry, you're completely right. Yeah. Nick Foles did have a receiving touchdown. I'd be shocked if we had a receiving touchdown in this game by a quarterback. You can probably bet on that. I bet you some book has plus 2,000 for Joe Burrow or Matt Stafford to catch a touchdown.
Yeah, it's got to be out there somewhere.
It's got to be. So Ben, do you have anything else that you want to add on?
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I missed. But no, I think if there's anything, we can cover it tomorrow if it slipped through the cracks. But then tomorrow we can cover it with some of these more one-off novelty type of props, because there's obviously several. And I think there's like 2 classifications. You have like one that are like the Gatorade color and stuff like that. But there's still a lot of good, valuable plus EV opportunities with like longest field goal and things of that nature. So we'll get through a lot of those tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's going to be the focus of the entire stream tomorrow for anybody who hadn't heard beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
What about a lineman catching a touchdown? Yeah, I mean, if there's odds for it, we will talk about it tomorrow.
Exactly.
So actually, on that note, if anybody in the chat has kind of weird miscellaneous props that you know that have odds out for them, come prepared with them.
Yes.
It's not going to be structured in the same way that the player prop discussion is, where we start with passing props and then go to rushing and receiving and touchdowns. It's kind of just all over the place. So we can definitely jump around and kind of just talk about whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it would be really hard to structure something like, all right, we're going to talk about lineman props, like, and we're going to talk about safety props. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it makes sense that way.
What if there's like odds on every individual lineman to score a touchdown?
It's like how do they calculate that?
They don't. They have a 20% hold on it and
yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
offer up a bunch of plus. Not as much as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think unless Ben has anything else to say, or anybody in the chat has anything else to add on, we are going to wrap up the stream for today. We will be live twice tomorrow.
Yes.
So
who's on tomorrow?
You.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Unless you can't be.
No, I can't.
We could cancel tomorrow's stream.
We talk about that. But as of now, I can be in.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll be sure to wake up. Not gonna do anything too crazy tonight.
Yeah, it's freaking weather, man.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. We will be on tomorrow. Regardless, if we do the morning stream, we'll be on at 5 Mountain Time, 7 Eastern, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, and college basketball will be at 11 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. So thanks, everyone, for hanging out tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.